We have some news about a film festival which is usually held around this time of the year in the city of Puchon. It's the Puchon International Fantastic Film Festival, which is in its 18th year. Cultural correspondent Park Ji-won brought us the report. The Puchon International Fantastic Film Festival, also known as PFAN, opened on July 17th and runs through the 27th. Horror movies are typically the specialty of PFAN, but there were less shown this year. Under this year's theme of love, fantasy, adventure, there were more mystery and fantasy films on the screen. Out of the Korean movies, director Kim Seung-hyuk's Nothing Lost is receiving lots of interest from audiences and jury members. 210 films, 123 full-length films, and 87 shorts from 47 countries are participating in this year's PFAN festival. April's Sewol-ho ferry disaster devastated the country. In the newest development, the death of ferry owner Yoo Byung-eun was confirmed this week. Yoo was wanted in connection with the ferry disaster on charges of embezzlement and criminal negligence. A massive manhunt was launched but ended this week with the confirmation that a body found in June was Yoo's. The authorities are investigating the circumstances surrounding his mysterious death. Presidential correspondent Choi You-sun, as well as reporters Connie Kim and Connie Lee, brought us the coverage from the discovery of Yoo Byung-eun's corpse to the questions it's raised. The Korean economy, which has long been centered around the US dollar, could soon pivot toward the Chinese yuan. Store owners in Myeongdong depend heavily on Chinese tourists. Shinhan Card, which is a forerunner in Korea's credit card industry, says that the usage rate of credit cards by Chinese tourists rose 82.7% last year when compared to 2012. In the real estate market, Chinese nationals owned 315,000 square meters of land on Jeju Island last year, nearly as much as the amount owned by Americans. Finance correspondent Hwang Ji-hye reported on how China's influence can be seen in almost all sectors, including trade, the markets, and real estate, among others.
Here is an interesting collection of craft beer. This one right here has a taste of banana, while this one has a nutty chocolate. The number of the thirsty visiting local bars for artisanal beer has surged in recent days.
Many of us yearn for an ice-cold mug of beer during the hot summer season. But these days, there's a change in Korea's beer trend. Craft beer has emerged as a new market in Korea, and it's causing quite a sensation among beer drinkers. Reporter Shin Se-min brought us the story. The first place Se-min visited was Seoul Venture University.
한국의 공식적인 명칭은 소규모 맥주 제조자, 오비나 맥주 이런 건 일반 맥주 제조자. 이렇게 구분이 되는 거고 매장 안에서 만들어서 파는 거 그 안에서만.
네.
주로.
그게 소규모 맥주 제조자인
그랬는데
거고.
그 사람들도 법이 바뀌어서 외부 유통을 해준다는 거예요.
네. 국내에서 그럼 운영하는 소규모 맥주, 하우스 맥주 공장은 몇 개가 되죠?
2002년도부터 법이 풀려서 그때 당시에 한 2, 3년 사이 100여 개가 생겼었어요. 그런데 맥주 품질도 많이 떨어지고 가격도 비싸고 그래서 소비자들한테 많이 외면을 당했죠. 그래서 많이 도산을 해가지고 지금 한 40개 정도, 40개 안팎 정도가 영업을 하는 걸로 돼 있어요.
She's here to learn about the market trends for craft beer from a professor who specializes in the field.
하우스 맥주의 메리트라고 하면
하우스 맥주 가장 큰 메리트는 일단은 다양성이에요. 에일 맥주라든지 밀 맥주라든지 흑 맥주라든지 이렇게 다양화된 맥주를 만들 수 있다는 게 하나 장점이 있고요. 또 하나는 좀 맥주가 굉장히 프레시하다는 거죠. 신선하다는 거죠. 대기업 같은 경우는 유통을 통해서 나왔기 때문에 벌써 제조된 지가 몇 달이 지난 거지만 요거는 오늘 출하된 거란 말이죠. 그렇기 때문에 소비자들이 굉장히 신선한 맥주를 다양하게 선택할 수 있는 그런 장점이 있는 거죠.
말씀하셨지만 4월 1일부터 이제 개정된 주세법 시행령이 이게 뭐 산업 진입벽을 낮추는 거 말고 또 다른 마이크로 브루어들한테는 어떤 의미가 되는 거죠?
예전보다는 자본을 덜 투자하면서 자기가 직접 이제 창업을 할 수 있는 그런 길이 열리게 된 것이죠. 그래서 이제 소자문으로도 누구나가 맥주에 관심이 있는 사람은 이 시장에 진출할 수 있는 이제 그런 장점이 되고 소비자들 입장에서도 매장을 찾아서 자기 입맛에 맞는 맥주를 골라 먹을 수 있는 이제 그런 소비자 입장에서도 그런 혜택이 돌아오게 된 그런 상황이 된 거죠.
감사합니다.
네.
네,
그러세요?
네, 저희가 다 필요한 거.
Well, for my coverage, I wanted to back with some statistics saying that this is a booming industry, but since it is a very small industry to begin with, it didn't have a lot of figures and statistics to back it up. And in order to make it more reliable, I tried searching for experts within the field, and a professor within that field came up, and he had an interesting idea to share about the growing industry, so I visited the professor.
After the interview, Se-min visited a hot spot in Itaewon that's known for its many pubs that specialize in craft beer. There's one pub that is especially loved.
손님 수도 늘고 매출도 늘었다고 할 수 있을까요? 그거 혹시 이제 숫자로 저희한테 말씀해 주실 수 있나요? 민감한 부분이긴 한데 이제 어떻게 보면은 제일 피부에 와닿는 게 매출이 급감했을 때 저희가 딱 보고 아 그렇게 느낄 수 있을 것 같아서.
Se-min decided to find out what's causing the sudden popularity of craft beer.
근 몇 개월간 훨씬 더 늘었을 매출일 것 같아요. 딱 봤을 때만 해도 이제 정확한 수치로 말씀해 주신다면
여름이 오기도 했고 그런저런 상승 효과로 인해서 저희 지금 1호점 같은 경우에는 저번 달에 한 1억 정도의 매출이 나왔었어요.
그게 얼만큼 늘어난 거라고 볼 수 있어요, 혹시 말해서?
저희가 지금 1년 2개월 정도 됐는데요. 첫 달에는 한 2천만 원 정도, 한 3천만 원 정도의 매출이었고요. 네, 한 1년 2개월 만에 지금 약간 폭발적인 성장을 네, 하게 되었습니다.
왜 이렇게 수요가 꾸준히 늘고 있다고 생각하세요?
사실 제 생각에는 지금까지의 우리나라 소비자들이 한정적인 선택지에서 꼭 선택을 해서 몇 가지 맥주만 마시고 있었잖아요. 그런데 이제 뭐 외국 여행을 하는 사람도 많고 그다음에 외국에 살다 오던 사람도 많고 이렇게 되면서 사람들의 입맛도 수준이 높아지고 또 다양해지면서 그런 니즈가 생겼고 이런 수제 맥주 역시도 그런 시장이 점점 커진다고 생각하고 있어요.
The other owner of the booth is former journalist Daniel Tudor. He caused quite a stir in the country when he penned an article stating that Korean beer was worse than North Korea's Taedonggang River beer. The place was brimming with customers, even though it was a weekday. People really are crazy for craft beer these days. There's another craft beer pub at the end of the tight alleyway. This is another place Se-min wanted to visit. This pub specializes in over 8 types of craft beer. From the early evening, the hall is filled with people. People didn't even mind standing in line to get a drink.
Well, the more the better. Giving more examples and backgrounds on the knowledge and the idea itself will definitely help the viewers understand that it is a growing trend. And to do that, I've looked into a list of bars that carry craft beer, and a couple of them came up, and those two were the ones that were actually doing well in the business for quite a long time. The restaurant to get a different...
The pub was filled to the brim. Se-min asked for consent from the manager before she began reporting.
So you started...
The craft beer market is growing, but Se-min wanted stats to back it up. However, there were no official figures, which is why Se-min set out to visit the craft brew pubs to ask about their sales and their average number of customers per day to support her story on the rise of the craft beer industry.
Like a firm number or any of the things that people would, agree on in terms of the growth in sales. Like, doesn't have to be like exact numbers, but for you to just generalize it and say, and you don't keep track of turnover rate or any of the things.
Our turnover rate has increased. Our sales per person has increased about, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those will do, even if you don't have to completely reveal the number.
Yeah.
The pre-interview comes to an end and the real interview takes place in front of the camera.
Why the growing interest, or all of a sudden it might seem to other people, but why the growing interest over craft beer?
For craft beer, I feel like I said to you is that people are always looking for something unique, something different, something special, and I think craft beer offers that.
In terms of turnover rate, do you keep any numbers with the turnover rate, how fast it turns?
We've gone from being able to turn over our tables twice to being able to turn over our table 3 times in one evening.
You can go. Yes, good to go.
But it wasn't easy conducting an interview inside a small pub filled with customers.
How is your beer, the beer that you've brewed with your own recipe, any different from any other beers?
We try to use the highest quality ingredients when making our beers. We don't take any shortcuts. There's no corn or rice in our beers. We use high quality malts, and we also take advantage of our brewery, which is located in Gyeongridan-gil, and it is located very close to a very fresh spring water stream, and we use that water to make our beer, so no tap water.
좋습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you. No, that's okay. That's all I wanted. So.
Before we entered the bar, we've already talked to the owner of the bar, and they agreed to the shootings. So we went in and did a general sketch of the inside, the interior, and the people enjoying it as they would normally do in any day. But not everybody wants to be on camera, especially when they're enjoying their free time, after work time, especially when they're also enjoying a sip of beer and alcohol. So we had a lot of trouble with some of the customers not happy with us shooting the restaurant and the atmosphere itself. And as much as we wanted to do our coverage on the craft beer, and do a brief sketch on the interior of the bar, we didn't really want to bother customers that much. So we had to work around with the customers at the same time. So it was a little more difficult than any other coverage.
All the beers here are made with their own recipes. Kumgang Mountain Dark Ale, Jirisan Moon Beer, Indian Pale Ale, and others are named after the mountains of Korea. Se-min wants to hear about the pub from its customers and begins to do interviews.
짧게 인터뷰 가능할까 해서 왔는데 어떠세요? 네. 알겠습니다. 감사합니다. 짧게 혹시 인터뷰 가능하실까 해서.
아니요, 안 할게요. 죄송해요.
그래요, 알겠습니다. 감사합니다. 수제 맥주 여러 번 시도해 보신 거랑 어떠세요?
확실히 맛이 좀 진한 거랑.
아니요, 여기 앉아 계시면 돼요. 여기 인터뷰.
After several attempts, she finally finds a willing subject.
수제 맥주를 이렇게 많이 찾으시는 이유가 뭐죠? 다른 맥주 비해서?
좀 색다른 걸 먹고 싶다는 호기심 때문에 처음에는 다녔는데 먹으면 먹을수록 더 맛있는 맥주집도 있었고 가게나 컵마다 또 특색이 있는 맥주 각각 다른 맛을 느낄 수 있는 것 자체가 조금 매력적이었던 것 같아서
네, 감사합니다.
She also decides to talk to foreign visitors.
We're out here to cover a story on craft beer specifically. Mind if I ask you a brief question for a camera interview? Why do you dig for craft beer?
Craft beer, it offers a good selection of flavors and tastes, so craft beer is something more special. You can try to pick out the flavors and tastes and more interesting flavors to your palate, and maybe to add with a meal as well.
Great, thank you.
Oh, yeah, great, thank you.
This is a growing trend in Korea with Korean craft beer. I try to get a more feel of Korean people saying, yes, it is a trend because we are more inclined to try these new beers rather than foreigners speaking about the Korean trend. Although I believe that a lot of foreigners have contributed to the growth, I just wanted to get a feel of how different people from different backgrounds are thinking on this growing trend.
The next day, Se-min visited a craft beer brewery to learn more about the process.
메가에 있는 전분을 이용해서 당분을 생산을 해요. 알코올이 만들어지려면은 당분과 효모가 이렇게
배합하는
돼서
여기에서 끓이면서 비중을 맞추는 거예요. 네. 알코올이 생산되는 거죠. 흡수하고 알코올이 만들어지고
그렇죠.
그러고 나서 포장하고 바로 배송.
그렇죠. 방앗간 같은 거예요, 이게.
네.
그러니까 그 메가를 보리나 밀을 싹을 틔워가지고 바짝 말린 거예요.
네.
그래서 그 볶은 상태에 따라서 레시피대로 여기서 이제 집어넣으면 공세가 돼요.
네.
공세가 돼서.
For a more abundant taste, there are times when the filtering and sterilization process are skipped while making craft beer. That's why its shelf life can be short, but also why its flavor is so rich. Last April, a part of the nation's liquor tax law was amended, and the tax for small-sized beer makers went down. That's why there are high expectations for the future of the craft beer market.
저 안에 있는 산소를 빼내면서 맥주를 주니까 하는 방법이에요. 해가지고 우리는 크래프트 비어니까 거의 다 소비를 해요. 해가지고.
Se-min sat down with the CEO of the factory who's been running a brewery since 2002.
지금 조금 젊은 사람들 사이에서도 그렇고 이렇게 좀 인기가 많이 있다고 하는 거에 힘입어서 그 생산량이 좀 바뀌긴 했나요?
우리 공장만 보면 이제 팔 수 있게 해줬잖아요. 금년 4월부터 외부 반출이 가능하니까 늘었죠. 작년 대비 금년 한 20%?
유통 과정이 좀 달라요. 보통 다른 대량 생산되는 맥주랑 왜냐면 이제
다르죠. 냉장으로 유통하고 또 도매상에도 냉장 시설이 돼 있는 데만 우리가 납품을 해요.
Shin Se-min seeks out various opinions when she is out on news coverage. We'll continue to look forward to her future reports.
among other things that needs to be improved to actually stimulate this small business, small growing industry, I feel like the most important thing is the interest of people. The more the people find it or crave it, the more they're going to produce it, and the more competitive it gets, and they're obviously going to be more flavors if there's competitiveness. So even with all those tax related laws being eased, I feel like if more people are inclined to look for and search for those beer, the industry will eventually prosper.
일단은 먼저는 재능 기부를 실천하시는 프로젝트를 주관하는 그 대표님이 오시게 됐습니다. 아프리카 어린이들을 위해서 이제 그 디자이너나 뭐 학교 선생님들이 모여서 이제 재능 기부로 만든 산수책과 막 이런 걸 좀 소개하는 그런 시간이 될 것 같습니다.
안녕하세요. 혹시 안녕하세요.
아니, 저 담당팀 처음이요. 예.
마침 준비했어요.
아, 예. 예. 완전 감사합니다. 일단 자리에 앉으시면
네.
It's taped, obviously. So if you want to take a break or get your notes together, just let us know. We can stop. You know, it's not a problem.
Thank you very much.
No worries. This is the book.
네.
Let's see if I can do the math.
Yes, right.
So you've got the first project, right, which is the water project, and then you're
right.
starting the second one.
Yeah, last
now.
year. Yeah.
Last year.
Yes.
Wow, it's exciting. And it's already going, right?
Yes, right.
The project is going now.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
that's exciting. How many people are involved?
Around 15 people.
15. So it's a pretty small operation, right?
Yes.
That's great. That's rewarding, though. Very rewarding to have that many people doing such a big thing, right? Yeah, that's great. That's really great. again, it's taped, right? So don't worry, because if you make a mistake or you want to stop for just a moment, just let us know, and then we'll stop the tape and we can start over again. So don't be too nervous. It's not live, right? It's not going out live, so we'll be okay. It's a situation. Every guest, of course, is a little bit different depending on the topic and depending on their background. This particular time, there was a need for a little prompting and perhaps a little massaging around the edges, so to speak, with answers. So my job in that respect, and in times like that, is to help the guest and to help them come out and sort of formulate their thoughts so that their answers will reflect what they're really trying to say. You went to Africa first and saw the situation?
Yes, right.
And then decided to do something about that?
Yeah.
Which part of Africa?
Which part?
Yeah, have you gone to?
East side.
East side.
Zambia and Tanzania.
Okay. They've got a real big need for clean water.
Right.
And the school project is in the same countries, Tanzania and
Tanzania, and actually we sent some books to Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa too.
Oh, okay. Wow, so you're really expanding then.
Yeah, but not that many.
Not that many.
So that's why I'm not satisfied.
Oh, but as you know, every long journey starts with a single step, right? So you're starting it, right? That's great. Ms. Cho, thank you very much for being on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now let's start with the Well Done Project. If you will, tell us what it is, what it aims to do, and maybe tell us first of all what the name means, Well Done Project.
Well Done Project means a project make a well for African children. Just before giving up, let's just try the fundraising online, and we earned $6,800 in 24 days. That's why I couldn't give up. I couldn't just give up. I think talent donation is one of the ways to express themselves. They can express themselves and their talent, and then they also can help other people in need at the same time. I think that's why people are interested in talent donation.
제가 잘 못해서 다른 분들한테 피해가 되지 않을까 좀 걱정이 많이 됐고, 역시 영어로 말하는 것도 참 어렵고, 근데 아마 한국말로 했어도 어려웠을 것 같아요. 방송하시는 분들 참 대단하시다 하면서 많이 느꼈어요. 머리가 새하얘지더라고요.